Okay, now we're going to summarize alkalosis. In order to summarize alkalosis, here's what's so interesting about how I set up your packet. Because if you don't understand what the hell did she do with this packet, why is these two, alkalosis and acidosis, so far apart, then you're going to be losing your mind. So if you just go back to where we had our acidosis page and you go forward, you can see it talks about the potassium, because with acidosis we said the potassium was high. It talks about potassium. It talks about how to, lower the potassium when it's high. It gives you examples of what the patient's going to look like when they're in hyperkalemia. Then we talk about medications to lower it. We talk about the other medications to lower it, diuretics. Okay, so mine looks a little different than yours does, but it's the same thing. So if you look at where you ended up, we were on the acidosis page. Then we talk about potassium. That's why this packet is electrolyte and acid base. So we talk about potassium. We talk about what happens when it goes up. We talk about what medications we use to treat it. We talk about the diuretics that we may end up using. We give a specific diuretic, bumetanide. Okay, so again, they follow a pattern. Now, though, we are on the summary of alkalosis. It's a little different now. Okay, so this is the polar opposite. So if you look at this handout, you have your hyperventilation. We said that was the exact opposite of hypoventilation. Now, of course, across the top, like I told you on the last sheet, write causes. Okay, just follow me. All right. Now, if you look at this page, it says initial stages of acute pulmonary problems. Well, the word initial means early. So you can write that early up here. And I don't like the word problems. I like to be very specific in what I'm teaching. And for it to say acute pulmonary problems doesn't really tell me anything. So get rid of that word. I don't like it. So we're going to say early stages or early initial stages of acute pulmonary what? Embolism. Remember that? Acute pulmonary embolism. Or add the words early asthma. Those are very important. So alkalosis is very much an all of a sudden kind of problem that is happening. It's a, oh my God, kind of, ooh, this is going on right now. Okay, so early initial stages of acute pulmonary embolism or early asthma. That's what should go in this section here. I like that it says mechanical ventilation. I would add laboring mother. If you look a little further on this page, you see it says anxiety. You can put panic attack. You see it says high altitudes here. You can add somewhere in around the top part of the paper, you can add fever, okay, or basically heat inside the body, okay. If you look at the bottom talks about metabolic alkalosis. And of course, if you really pay attention, this gentleman has an NG tube going to the wall suction. And if you follow his esophagus down, you'll see he has a stomach. So this should be where you write NG tube to suction. And this is called gastric decompression. This is where you have your loss of gastric juices. Next to loss of gastric juices, write the words HCl, or the letters I should have said. HCl for hydrochloric acid. So, see, you can do this. All right. Now, if you keep on going, you will see that you have diuretics. Well, you got to know what kind. Here you write loop diuretics, thiazide diuretics. Examples, Lasix, Bumex, right? So Bumex is bumetanide. Thiazide diuretics is hydrochlorothiazide. We call it HCTZ. HCTZ, that's how we call it in the hospitals, right? You need to write down steroids. We didn't talk about that, but steroids can decrease the potassium. So put your steroids here. Here, this overuse of bicarbonate means antacids. You can see it's in a little roll like Rolaids. You just put antacids, and that is really what you mean when you say overuse of bicarbonate. Okay? So you see you have all your stuff. Now, of course, we're going to treat the cause. That's the key. We're going to treat the cause. So what is the cause? Well, it could be anything. It could be the fact that you took steroids. It could be the fact that you did too many antacids, whatever. So what ultimately ends up happening with this patient, because all K is low, is we do electrolyte replacement, we do hydration, we do seizure precautions, and falls precautions whenever we have a patient with alkalosis, okay? Now we're going to turn the page, because here's where we break it apart, break it up a little bit. And again, you don't want to go too crazy with these pages, because you'll be like losing your mind about what to memorize and what to learn. But there's a couple things I want to highlight. At the top of this page, put signs and symptoms. And then I want to stress with you over and over and over again, hypokalemia, seizures, brisk reflexes. It says hyperreflexes, brisk is better. Numbness and tingling of extremities, right here, and right here, all three. Numbness and tingling, hyperreflexes, and seizures. All three reflect that usually this patient's calcium is also low. Okay, so the calcium is low, the potassium is low. All right, so when we look at how to treat this patient, we say treat the cause, but also electrolyte replacement might be necessary depending on what's going on. Okay, now if we look at metabolic alkalosis, we already know the kidneys are involved here, and you will see what I mean by coloring this whole thing. I colored the all K is low. That's how I did it, so I remind myself. Then look what I put. Low calcium, low K. You've got to remember both, okay? You got to remember low calcium, low K. And I would write it, because it's not on here, I had to write it hypokalemia, hypokalemia, okay? And where you see seizures, this is where you see the decreased calcium. You see it, tremors, tingling, cramps. This is, again, low calcium. Please, 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 and please again, highlight that right there, low calcium. Now, the fun part about this packet is it has to make sense. So if you turn the page, and I'm not going to go into it because this is an acid-based lecture. I already have an electrolyte lecture. You can go to that. But I just want to show you how it's organized. Why is this organized the way it is? I don't just throw a bunch of paper together. I organize it, okay? So if you're saying that the potassium is low, then here we're talking about the potassium is low. If we're saying it's low, then how do we replace it? We replace it with potassium chloride or some other kind of combination. What else can help us not lose our potassium if we need a diuretic? A potassium sparing diuretic, because we know that loop diuretics and thiazide diuretics are potassium wasting diuretics. You have the calcium phosphorus. Why? Because we said calcium was low. So of course calcium is on this page, and we talk about calcium and what we should do about it, okay? When calcium is low, like it is with alkalosis, you get Chavostics and tetany and Trousseau's and all of these things. So this is not just an acid-base packet, it is also your electrolytes. Don't forget, because you know, if you have a school where your acid base was separated from your electrolytes, that's fine, but you got to go back in here and literally know that this packet, you may use it again. You use it for both those lectures. With regards to your NCLEX exam, well, you just keep it together because they're very inseparable. Now, so you're all good, and that concludes our acid-base lecture. Thank you.